Hey, Boos. Welcome back to the Shady Nomad podcast. I'm your host, Tamara, and I have a really special guest today. I've been so excited to speak to her. And believe it or not, we'll get a little bit into it during our conversation, but I actually met her online years ago, and then we actually met in person for the very, very first time, and I think the only time last year. So just wanting to introduce my guest. I think it's actually the year before last, actually. But either way it goes, I want to introduce my guest. I love her to death, and she is my sister from another mister because last name. I would like to introduce you to Samiyyah. Hey, girl.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
No, seriously, Samiyyah, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast episode. You are my very first guest, so you are so special, and I wanted it to be you purposely. So I'm like, no, it has to work. But either way it goes, let's just go ahead and get right into it. So I would like for you to please quickly introduce yourself. I could always give the introduction, but of course you can introduce yourself so much better. So please tell us who you are, what you're known for, and anything you would like to share about yourself.
All right. Hey, y'all. So as Tamara said, my name is Samiyyah. I am a world traveler, digital nomad at that. I've been traveling this world since I've been traveling since 2016. I first started out on a solo sabbatical, which is kind of the time when Tamara and I met through Nomadness Tribe. Shout outs to Evita for linking us together. And so we met and stayed in touch this whole time. What else? I am a business owner, and I'm also the second child, which I found out recently you were as well. And I was like, oh my gosh. I also didn't, I think I realized before that your last name was Williams, but I forgot. So when I saw it again, I was like, oh my God. So anyway, but yeah, that's a little bit about me. I guess we'll get, basically I'm here on this planet, just shedding some light, shedding some love, and experiencing the world through my travels.
Awesome. And that's a great introduction. So yes, just to go a little bit into what Samiyyah said, literally I was gearing to do my around the world journey. Literally around, I started in August 2016, and then I just was on Nomadness Travel Tribe. And then I saw this beautiful girl, and she's like, hey y'all, I think you started off, if I'm not mistaken, in Japan. Did you put on
Yeah.
And you're like, hey y'all, I'm in Japan. I'm traveling by myself. I'm just going around the world. And I'm like, how awesome and ironic is that at the same time that I'm literally getting ready to leave New York City to go travel the world, and you were already doing it. And I'm like, wait, her last name is Williams too. In contact with her because I just need to know how she's enjoying it thus far. I can only imagine with you, I still had a bit of jitters before going. So the fact that you had left right before me, you actually gave me some reassurance, if you will, before I took off. So yeah, that's awesome. So I wanted to dive into both a little bit more into your travel journey as well as your entrepreneurship journey. But let's just start off with the travel journey first. I know that you are both a worldwide traveler, which I love, and then also too, you're also entrepreneur. But I want to get a little bit more into your travel journey. So I just wanted to start off by asking you, how long have you been interested in traveling, and since when has it became a dream for you?
Oh gosh, I feel like it's always been inside, since I was a kid. From going away to camp, and it was just me. My other sisters, they don't really care about care enough to get on a plane and travel as often, or even as little, as I want to. But going away to camp when I was in grade school, and then just love doing it. I'm a Sag, so I feel like that's already ingrained in me. I think my first trip I took by myself was, I believe, to Arizona. So to Arizona was a road trip, and then I drove up to the Grand Canyon, and it was a great experience. I think at that point I just kind of felt like, well, if I don't have anyone to go with, I might as well just go by myself. And I think it was also, this was during that time where I was learning to be alone, being comfortable with that. And that took some time. And I was like, I just started dating myself. I started going on my dates with Jesus, start with the movies, start with the restaurant. And then it just became something. And when I started doing vision boards, I put it on my board, like I wanted to travel the world. And so I put it on there. Sometimes we just have these lofty goals and we just throw it out there. We don't necessarily work intentionally towards them. Not all the time. I'm going to speak for myself. So I would throw them out there, and I wasn't necessarily working towards this. But when I look back, there were things like it was almost like the universe helping me with that goal without me even noticing it. Realizing it. And so, put it on my goal board. And then in 2015, I think it was 2015, I came in contact with a mutual friend. And I learned that she just took like a sabbatical. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Actually, let me just fast forward. Let me back up real quick. When I started my real job, and my background is in tech. I didn't mention that in the beginning. So I have a bachelor's of science in computer science. So it was in 2008, I started this job. And I read like some kind of magazine. I don't know how I got it, but I just flipped through it. And it was like backpacking in Asia. And I was like, what is that? Oh my gosh. And I'm an outdoorsy person, right? Like I love being outdoors, backpacking, camping, all that. And I was like, I'm going to do that. And then I said it and I put it away. There was like no attachments, no anything. And it just was like something that was real for me. And then that's when it went on the goal board. And then, fast forward, I discovered like a mutual friend was on sabbatical, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to interview you. So sort of similar to what we're doing now, I was like, I need to interview you. I want to hear more about the story or whatever. Then I talked to her about her story. And then another person I went to school with, I heard about her sabbatical. I was like, that's it. Next year I'm going. And when I next year I went. Like that, when I made that declaration in that moment, I wasn't nervous. I really feel like it was a God thing for me, because a part of me was scared about traveling outside of the country by myself. Inside, okay, it's America, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But outside of the country where we hear that, everything's bad, not everything, but, we hear the bad stories.
Like ingrained in us like throughout our whole childhood, especially if you grew up here in America.
Right, exactly. We see the images of like war and blood, all of that. And so I was nervous about that at first. But in that moment when I made that declaration, all of that went away. And then when it would come up, I was like, I'm going. Like I was going. And before that, I was working on Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace. And so I had worked out like clearing all my debt, all my school loans. Like I was doing that before I was even considering traveling. So I told my job, I'm taking a sabbatical. I want to take a sabbatical. I'll put myself in a position. You're either going to say yes to me or you're going to say no. And it doesn't matter. I'm going to go anyway. And so I felt like, in a way, I had the upper hand because it was my decision, and whether or not you allowed me, I was taking it anyway. So yeah, like I say all that to say it's always been in me. It's been on the goal board. So I mean, sometimes we don't know how we're going to work through things or how we're going to make them happen. And I think it just starts with like that declaration and that conviction, and just knowing like it's already said, it's already sealed, and like God works it out.
So I really love like what you had to say, just because of a few things that I pulled out from when you were talking. The first thing is, I love how you say like you declare like, I'm going to do this. I'm taking the sabbatical. And I feel like, God always like, he knows what we want to do. He's just waiting for us literally to say, okay, I'm ready to do it, or just like put it out there. And I felt like the moment you put it out there, he was just like, okay, well, let's go. And he set everything up for you to go. And, that takes a lot of courage. And I don't think people realize how powerful that is. And like, for me, it took me a while also to kind of say, okay, I'm going to do this. But like once I became determined to do it and I said, God, I'm going to do it, he literally put everything in place for me to go. Another thing that I really love that I picked up while you were talking was how you were, and I'm not saying that you weren't confident before, but like how you came to your job, your employer, and just said, hey, I'm going to do this. So, you know, it could go either way it goes. I'm still going to leave. And I think that that's very powerful because when you're working in corporate America or any corporation in America, I can't speak for you. I can only speak for myself. Like when I was living abroad, I realized like how much of a rat race, how much of a hamster wheel it is living and working in America. It's like, you know, they literally pay you to put your dreams to the side. So, you know, you might do a few of your dreams that you want to do, but it's a lot of times what ends up happening is like those really big dreams we kind of put on the wayside or in the back burner. And we're like, oh, we'll get to it eventually. And sometimes we don't ever get to it. So I love that. It's like you had that confidence and declaration, like I'm doing this regardless of the fact. And, you know, it worked out in your favor. How did if you don't mind saying, how did your employer, did they say cool or did they say no? Or like, what was the result?
You know, so at that point, I think I was with the company for almost 10 years, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think it might have been like maybe 8 or something like that. But, you know, I had built up a really good rapport with pretty much everyone in my company. I was in the IT department and actually managing a team at this particular stage. And, you know, I had a lot of connections with the CEO at the time. And then like, actually there were like 2 CEOs that kind of transitioned and, you know, we built that rapport as they were there. But yeah, I mean, I think also at that season of my life, like I was feeling very overwhelmed. I was almost like busting at the seams, honestly. It was over ministry at my church at the time. Ministry and then there was work and then there was just life and then I was growing or expanding internally but not knowing how to process all of this. So I just felt very overwhelmed and I didn't know if I should leave my job. I didn't know if I should stay at my job. I didn't know if I should look for the same kind of job. I just needed to breathe a bit. And I think these were all of the factors playing into that as well. And I don't want to say it's like I didn't care if you said, you know, no. I didn't care, but I don't want to make it sound like that because it was such a blessing to be at that company. So anyway, when I said, hey, I want to take a sabbatical, and we were a company, so this was not foreign to the company itself. We were a French company, and they did this in France and Europe, you know. Common, right? People take gap years or whatever. But in America, like, what? Like, okay.
No, get back on that hamster wheel. What are you talking about?
I think there was maybe like one other person at that time. So I approached it. I said, hey, I want to take a sabbatical. And that's it. Like, I was going for a year. And we worked some things out. They let me go. They let me keep my insurance, which was great.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and then like I had a little bit of perks while I was still traveling, but I didn't work, and so I knew for sure that I was taking this time. I wasn't working at all. Like if you need something super urgent, like a question, but they didn't really need me, you know. But so I really got to just enjoy and explore and just rediscover my life, as I called it, which was you know that was that season for me. So yeah, they let me go. They said, okay, we'll see you when you get back. But then, you know, fast forward a year came and went, and I was like, I'm not ready to return.
Exactly. Like America's so ghetto.
I'm not ready to return. And I was like, no, just sometimes when you know you're returning to a place, and especially like corporate, like there isn't a quick turnaround for things and how you know they do things. It's just the politics of corporate industry or the corporate world. And so I think even before this, like I said, so I made the call actually. Like I made the call to the CEO or to my boss, I think it was first, and I said, I'm not ready to return, so I guess, I have to resign because I said a year. I don't know, if that's going out. And he was like, okay, no, I understand, blah, blah. He was willing to be like, okay, well, see you later. And then when I called the CEO, he was like, well, how much more time you need? Like, what are you thinking? And I'm literally like this, Tamara, on the phone. I'm like, I just feel like he couldn't see my face, but I was like, I have no idea. I didn't call asking for more time.
Yeah. Because you're just like, this is it. Like, they're going to be like, oh, no. Yeah.
But I was also calling because I didn't want him to hear through my boss that I was quitting.
Yes, of course.
Because, that's the relationship we had. And so to let him know that, hey, I'm not ready to come back, so I'm going to resign. And he just was like, how much time you need? And I'm like, 6 months or something. I don't know. He's like, okay, well, keep doing what you're doing. We'll figure it out here. See it, whatever. So I hung up and I was like,
favor.
I tell you, so I went about my journey, and that year turned into 18 months. And when it was time for me to come back, I actually was like, I cannot go back. And I did signing because I couldn't go with the discoveries that I had within it felt like freedom of flowing and navigating this world. I was like, I didn't want to let that go.
Yeah.
So to have to go back into the office, to be there, my hours that I made, it just felt very, very
restrictive.
Yeah, exactly. And I just was like, I can't. So I left, and there goes another journey.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's awesome. And, it's not the comparison I'm about to make is not the exact same, but just bear with me. You want to know when I feel like a lot of people had a similar aha moment or a similar is the beginning of COVID, during quarantine period. What ended up, as a lot of people ended up either being furloughed or laid off, or they got to work, from home because they had, the employers had no other choice. Because as a lot of employers were pissed about having people, having to let people work from home. But the reason why is because people got to realize working remotely, and they're like, oh, I get to have an opportunity to take care of me a bit more, and I could, synchronize my job, but I'm synchronizing it, or I'm planning it around my life versus planning my life around this job. So it came to the point where when, the restrictions started to lift up, and then they were like, oh, return to office. As a lot of employees were like, actually, I'd rather just quit.
Yeah.
I'd rather just quit because I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't, it's hard for you to understand or realize what's going on when you're in it, when you're in the race. But the moment you step out and you realize hey, my nervous system has regulated, I feel more at ease, I could breathe, I'm figuring out who I am, and not what other people are telling me to be, or not doing what this job is telling me to be, it's very freeing. So I commend you for that, because I had a similar but not the same experience. So I ended up having to leave my job. I asked to work remotely. I worked in healthcare. I worked for a major medical center in New York City. And they were like, girl, no. They were like, yeah, we love you, but girl, no. And I also only been at that job for a year, but they were like, girl, no. However, how it ended up working out is the VP of that department, because it was a large department I worked for. She's a Black woman, and she's still there to this day. And she always took a real big liking to me. Her and I got along really, really great. So what ended up happening is I traveled for 14 months. And then when I came back, I actually did not want to come back to that job, but I always stayed in contact with her. So it was one of those things to where it's like, hey, I kind of kept this job around for you. Do you want to come back? And although I personally, I really didn't want to come back, that was just the alignment for God. He was like, that God had for me. He's like, you're coming back. You need to, start hustling again. Just go back here, she really did hold her down for you. So, I totally get it. But yeah, I was just like, I want to come back here and I don't want to come back into this rat race.
It was there for what you needed it, and
Exactly. So I want to segue that, and you kind of answered this, I feel like, but if not, just let me know. What was your like aha moment or that life changing moment for you that made you realize? I know, like you were learning yourself and growing and all that stuff when you were during your 18 months of travel. But what was the aha moment, if you could pinpoint it down, or that life changing moment that made you be like, I want to do this. I want to take that sabbatical. I want to just travel the world. Like, I know, like you kind of gave us a little bit of pieces of information, but is there a particular aha moment to where you're like, I got to do this?
So before I left, so again, there was that, I think it was a feeling. And I'm an INFP, so I feel before anything else.
Yes.
And so it was a feeling. And I know, like, that's how God speaks to me, right? There's just this thing you can't ignore, that it's just there. And sometimes you say things, you're kind of thinking it, but then your mouth blurts it out before you can even put it into something. And like, I guess that's what it was supposed to be.
Yep.
And so saying it and recognizing where my body was in that moment, that connection, it was pure like peace. It was almost like the synergy of the two. It was like, yes, we're doing this. Yes. Like it was just a yes. And from there, it was almost like everything just kept aligning. Like it just kept aligning to, this is a yes. This is a yes. And I think sometimes for me, I notice that I move or I can make drastic decisions so I'm trying to word this. So it's almost like I don't know what to do right now. I've been thinking about it. So for example, in the job where it was like I think I was giving a lot of my time out and not allowing enough time for me to kind of replenish myself. And as so I just got overwhelmed with everything, right? And it was kind of like I'm trying to think. I think it was in that moment I needed to do something. Like I just needed to do something. And not knowing, okay, it's a new job, not knowing, okay, it's moving out of my mom's place, not knowing if it's, whatever, it was a drastic decision. And again, it felt like the easiest decision. And it was travel. Like that was something that was in my heart anyway. Yes. And so it was like, it just all came together. And I was like, why not? Yeah. It was a why not. It was like a why not that thing.
Yeah. I think that's awesome, because why not? And just like, let me just try. Like that mindset, so many people are so scared to have. Like they want to have it, but they're just like, it's too unknown. And as you know, a lot of us, like, if we can't pinpoint it, we can't control the outcome. A lot of people don't even try. So the fact that you just still leaned into it anyway, like that's very commendable. So I want to ask you, although I feel like you might have already answered this question, how long have you been an expat at this point?
Oof. It's I think about it, I'm like, what if I return to the States for like a year, does that mean I'm still an expat? Like, so I'm gonna say, honestly, I don't know, Tamara. And I'm saying that because, again, if I'm really thinking about it, I will probably say 2016 was when that happened. I left. I came back in 2018. I was planning to leave right back out like that same year, but things happened with my dad, and so I had to step in that role. And I didn't leave again until 2020. Also, with my partner. And so we were heading.
Because I bought that GoPro from you.
Yeah. Funny, we got a lot of virtual moments. We got a lot of in the internet world moments together. But yeah, and so I probably want to say maybe like 8 years then, right? Yeah.
Almost 9, going on 9.
Yeah, so I think I'll say that. Because
Yeah.
I never, when I came back, it was always, I couldn't see myself here anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I was always, I'm leaving. And even if I had to come back, which I did come back in 2020 after leaving in 2020, I left in 2020 and I came back in 2022. Some family stuff. Came back. I was here for another like year and a half or almost 2 years and then left back out. And then was out for another year, almost a year, and came back because of my dad. So
Yeah.
there's these like moments where I'm coming in and out, and now like this next round is really like going to be okay. Samiyyah is moving abroad, and this is gonna be I'm gonna be official.
Yes. Awesome. You guys, for the audience, I asked her this question on purpose because when I tell you, like I said, we've been friends virtually for going on 9 years, but we didn't meet in person until about 2023. Yeah, I want to say 2023. But when I say, man, I would like hit her up, like, hey, where you at? And she's like, oh, I'm in Myanmar, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then like some months would pass and I'm like, oh, she's still in Asia somewhere, blah, blah, blah. She's like, no, girl, I'm home. And I'm like, what? And then like, some time would pass and then I'll hit her up again, like, hey girl, so like what you doing? Like, how's everything at home? And she's like, oh girl, I'm overseas again. Like,
Yeah. Well,
so it's like this girl stayed like in and out, which I loved. But that's why I purposely asked her this question because now when I hit her up, I'm like, where are you?
Yeah.
I start off with that now. I'm like, where are you?
your location.
Yeah, where are you first before we get into our conversation? So yeah, I asked her that on purpose. Okay, here's the next question for you. How many countries have you traveled to?
Oh, I think I'm about 26 now.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny because I feel like there could be a lot more. But as you know, I'm a slow traveler. Mm-hmm. I started that when I was on my sabbatical. That was a journey. I had a list of like maybe 50 plus countries that I planned to visit during the sabbatical. Mm-hmm. And when I got to, I started in Japan, then Korea, then China. And I was moving like 2 weeks each of in the countries. And by the time I got to Vietnam, I was like, I'm moving too fast. I'm sitting down. Like, and I was moving that way, one, because I had also signed up for the visa for, China. And I thought I had to be in the country by a certain time because they needed to do all of these things.
Yeah.
But I just was like not feeling it. I'm like, there would be something like slow it down, right?
Yeah.
So I took my time. I literally took my time. I was in Vietnam. I traveled the country for 3 months on motorbike. I was in Hanoi. I bought a motorbike. I took it all the way up north to the very top, came back down to Hanoi, and then drove it all the way south, crossed the border to Cambodia, did some of that, crossed the border to Laos, and then, sold the bike to somebody to take it back to Vietnam. But and I feel that was the experience for me. That's how I got to meet so many people.
Yeah.
That's how I got to understand what travel was going to be like for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, and not to shade anybody, because I know people don't have the luxury of going months at a time away, and that's fine. So people go on vacations and, they go for a week or they go for 2 weeks and then, they go back home. But I don't feel like you always get that immersive experience, right? You're almost being the tourist, and depending, because maybe it could be an intentional, like, no, I'm going to this country, I'm going to get off the beaten path and I'm going to really see the country. But half and half, 50-50, right? Like, you don't always get to experience that because you have a short period of time. And so you want to live it up, do something different that you wouldn't be able to do at home, and then come back and get back to your normal life. And so, I was like, I didn't want that. And as a result, I just learned so much about myself. I learned that the world isn't scary. I learned how to navigate different languages. I learned a few phrases. I met a lot of people. Some people I'm still friends with today. One of my dearest friends, Denza from Myanmar, she amazing. I met up with her a couple of times actually since leaving the country. We stayed contact. So it's just been,
Yeah, because you stayed in, not to like tell your story for you, but I just remember because as you know, I was living in Vietnam and working in Vietnam, and then like I think as I was skedaddling out the country, you were coming in the country, and then I remember, if I'm not mistaken, I remember you were like the intention at that time, and this is probably right before you decided like, hey, I need to slow down. Because I think you wanted to I don't think your intention at first was to stay there that long. But then like next thing I know, like Samiyyah said, homegirl got her a motorbike and like I'm just following her journey on Facebook. Like she here one day, she's somewhere else in the country another day, but she just literally took her time and just traveled throughout the whole country. And I believe you also stayed in Myanmar for a while.
Yeah.
And I want to say you damn near got adopted out there. You were like,
I did get adopted. I got a whole name and everything.
Yeah, you loved Myanmar, and it was awesome to see that because like for someone like me, like how you slowed down, I kind of did the opposite. Like me, I'm naturally impatient, so it's like I'll see and I'm like, oh, okay, I saw it. I gotta go, you know.
You told me that.
Yeah, I was like when you were telling me you were staying places for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I said, oh no, girl, I stayed there for a few days. I had to skedaddle because I got to go. But what I loved about that though is because I feel like when you came to Southeast Asia, like I had already explored quite a few of those countries that you had, that you were getting ready to visit. But I got to see it from like a quick lens, like, okay, take a couple snapshots, stay for a few days or stay for a week or so and keep on moving about my journey, where you really sat there and immersed yourself. However, when I lived in Vietnam, when I traveled to Cambodia, Thailand, Myanmar, etc., it's like I still loved it because I still have the opportunity to immerse myself, just not as extensively as you did. One thing that I tell a lot of Americans that they don't realize is a lot of Americans want an American experience abroad. And I hate that. Like, and you could tell, like, y'all, for the audience, people could tell when you're American. Like we are very obvious. We're asking where McDonald's is at. We're asking why, this ain't like home. That's not like home. When people say American tourists are obnoxious, we really are. Really are. But it's like, I think that it's also, how can I say it? It's also sad because it's a missed opportunity to really immerse you're visiting another country, immerse yourself into the culture, learn, their societal norms, what they like to do, what they celebrate, what they avoid, all that stuff. So I love that, like, you really took your time and just like traveled through there. Because when I tell y'all, I thought Samiyyah was about to change her nationality to Burmese. I was like, this girl is not leaving Myanmar.
My story is that, so even when I'm in Asia now, right, when they ask me and I'm like, well, my mother is Burmese and my dad is American. And so, awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, there you go. So,
and then I have to say, no, I'm American.
Yeah. So I just learned that, y'all. So you see, because it's like, when I say Samiyyah was in Myanmar for the long, I said, "Ooh, girl, didn't you?" Okay, I'm not trying to put you on blast. Didn't you overstay your visa? Yeah.
So Samiyyah, even to this day, my partner, she gets like very like weirded out by you living on the edge. Like I don't want to go to jail. I want to leave on the day they expire. I'm like, it's okay, we good, like whatever. So I went to Myanmar for 3 months. I had a visa for 3 months and I overstayed a couple, I think maybe it was like, I don't know, almost 2-3 weeks overstayed. But I paid the fine when I left, whatever. And then I went back and then I stayed another 3 months plus. And then that's when I left and then I didn't return.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. But like, I just love it.
Samiyyah's an overstayer, and
I was like, that girl's moving to Myanmar. I said, she gone, y'all.
If I'm gonna get locked up for overstaying or banned, then I don't risk it. But if it's just a matter of paying a fine when I check out, then hey, I might overstay.
And you see how that's even freedom within itself, because you know, a lot of people would, like me, I would have been like so nervous, like, well, I got to get on up out of here. So okay, so now let me segue into, I got two hot questions for you, and you have to tell me off the top of your head, like whatever the first answer that comes. What's your favorite country? What's your least favorite country? Go.
Cambodia, least favorite, Myanmar. Myanmar and Vietnam. Yeah, those are, like, I'd say my top favorites, and Cambodia was my least favorite. I feel like I don't know. Maybe if I do it again, I might have a different experience.
Mm-hmm.
But usually when people ask me that question, I feel like that's it. I don't know if it's because I felt like I couldn't really connect with the people. You know, I will say the story though, the history of the country was very like sad, right?
Yeah.
So I was just to hear about that alone, and that's not a reason why it's not my favorite country, but that I took away that, and that's something that I was intrigued by, and watched the movies and anything related to that, just to get a better understanding. But I also feel like that was felt on a vibrational level, right? Like, okay, kind of like, who are you a bit? And there was a lot of influences from the surrounding countries, and not to say that's not going to happen anywhere else, but I just felt like I didn't really get that sense of Cambodia. But I know people that love it. I met people that were there and they're still there. So
I liked Cambodia. Like, okay. I have a complex feeling about Cambodia, but I'm gonna tell you why. I liked what I loved about Cambodia is like visiting Angkor Wat. Like I had like stayed in a hostel while I was in, I think was it Phnom Penh or whatever. Like I had stayed in a hostel, and I actually had the opportunity to go to Angkor Wat like 2 or 3 times. So I kept like booking the excursion from the hostel, and I went with a group at first. I went the first couple times, I went with the group, but then like the last time, although I went with the group, I kind of broke off on my own, and I said, I'll just meet you. What time do we have to be back at the van so we could go back? And I went off and did my own thing. So I really loved seeing, like, not to sound creepy, but like I loved seeing like other people worship at the temples, and like seeing the monks. I had a chance to speak to a few monks and just learn a little bit of their story. And I just thought that I loved the like connecting with people that way, and just kind of like just being still within myself. But I will always at the same time have smoke for Cambodia, because I feel like as you're traveling, there will be that one country where you'll get traveler's tummy, or you'll get basically your stomach will go haywire. You'll eat something and your stomach will go haywire and it can't handle it. And that was Cambodia. Cambodia had, by the time I left Cambodia, now ironically, and I'm gonna just be careful what I say because I don't want to offend anybody, but I had read to be careful about what you eat in Cambodia before I went there. And so I pretty much just stuck to vegetarian meals. I was like, I'm not eating nothing else. I'm just going to stick to the vegetarian meals. And my crazy self at the last night, there were some other people at the hostel, and they're like, we're going out for, we're going to on the pub crawl, and do you want to come? And they were like, hey, we're about to go eat at this restaurant. And they were like, you don't want to have any like meat and all that stuff? And I'm like, no. They were like, no, like, you're not going to get sick. Like, we've been eating this for the last, week or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I ate that shit. And the next day, like, I was literally leaving Cambodia, and my stomach said, oh, girl, you done messed up now. And
you done sat with the people.
I was like, and that's exactly what because I was in the clear, just sticking to the vegetarian meals. But that last night, so y'all, when your gut tell you don't do something, don't do it.
Don't do it. And if it's around food and you're gonna do it, make sure you have your charcoal pills on hand. So
okay, so it was like, ooh, I was like, the whole time I was on my way back to Vietnam, I just was like, if I could have kicked myself a million times, I would have. But
surprisingly, though, I did not get that sick when I was traveling, and I'm like,
okay,
thank God. Either I have a like strong stomach, or I don't know.
a stomach of steel.
Yeah, like I just don't really get sick like that. And there was one time I did get sick, and I felt like I was like leaving this place. Like I didn't know from first time from both ends. Like, and that was in Vietnam. Like that was in Vietnam, and then it was because I sat down, and this was also at the time where I was trying to stick to like vegetarian, and I ended up having like some chicken at when you cook it yourself, you sit down, I'm going to eat me some chicken. They give you 2 chopsticks, 1 chopstick to cook, 1 chopstick to eat with. I ended up eating with using the chopsticks that I was cooking with the raw. So I think I was like, did I just do that? So when I tell you, when I went back to the hostel, I was like out of it. Like I was so out of it. And the hotel, and at this time I was at the hostel for a bit, so they checked on me if they didn't see me. You know, it was bad. But yeah, Vietnam's still on top of my list. So
yeah. I mean, listen, you live and you learn. You live and you learn, and that's kind of. I had basically the same thing, the same experience, but it's like it happened at the worst time in Cambodia because just to tell you guys really quickly, when I left, I was living in Vietnam at the time. I was teaching English, and we had their New Year's called Tet, if I'm not mistaken. Their New Year's called Tet. So I had 2 weeks off. So I was like, well, let me take this time. Let me go to Myanmar. Let me go back to Thailand. Let me go to visit Cambodia. Getting back into Vietnam, I decided to take a bus from Phnom Penh over to Ho Chi Minh City, where I was living, or aka Saigon. And the bus ride, if I'm not mistaken, including the border run, was supposed to be like 12 or 13 hours. So I kid you not, like I said, the day before, I went out with them people and ate some food that I wasn't supposed to eat. And I kid y'all not, like I checked out the hostel, and I had to check out like real early because the bus came to pick me up. And we're talking about like 5 a.m. I promise y'all, by like the moment I got on that bus, like maybe an hour later, and this is the beginning of the journey going back to Vietnam, my stomach was like, oh, girl, we're going to show you how to go down the slide. And I was like, wait, no. And then we ended up running into so much traffic. I think going through Phnom Penh, and then having to get out Phnom Penh. So that extended the 12 to 13 hour bus ride to about 15 to 17 hours. And I'm just on that bus the whole time, just sick. Just sick. And I'm just praying to God. I'm like, God, please.
Wait, so then how did you deal with that? Because there's a bathroom on the bus.
But you know, it was disgusting.
Yeah. But I mean,
so every time we made number one, I didn't eat anything. I didn't eat anything. Like the only thing I think I did eat was like crackers. Like I was like, okay, you know, when you're sick like that, you're going through your mind like, what can I eat? What should I avoid? So I think I had bought like a ginger ale, and I was just like literally nibbling on crackers because I was so scared. Like if I sneezed wrong, it was going to be over. But every time we had a pit stop, I was just like running to the bathroom, and then as we were on the bus, I'm like, God, please just cover me till we get to the next pit stop. But it was hell. And so that's why I'm telling y'all, when your gut say don't do something, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. All right, so let's move along. I do have a few more questions for you. So I know that you said when you took your sabbatical that you weren't working. So how did you fund your travel and lifestyle?
So, so I briefly mentioned earlier in the conversation where I had went through Financial Peace, and basically it's ran through like Dave Ramsey, and he teaches you the 7 baby steps, 8 baby steps, one of those, where basically it's like, you know, you pay off your debt, you start an emergency fund, then you start building, it's like $1,000 emergency fund, then it's like 3 to 6 months expenses. And so there's these baby steps you go through, and you don't skip. So I had went through that. So I had a nice savings that I basically used. It was probably like maybe like 20,000 or something like that.
Okay.
And then I still had more when I came back, but that's what I lived off of when I was traveling. And I think it was the best place to start traveling in Asia.
Mhm.
A lot of things are so reasonable, right? And you're staying in hostels, you're staying in guest houses, nothing fancy. You're backpacking,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that's how I afforded, that sabbatical journey.
Yeah. The reason why I asked that is because, like, for the viewers that are watching that are like aspiring to do this, and that's leading into my next question. Well, one of my future questions. A lot of times, like, I can't speak for you, but like before I started traveling the world, I did not grow up with money. Like, my parents were like, don't ask, we ain't got it. We ain't got it. And for a lot of people that don't grow up with a lot of money, like, you'll look at traveling as like astronomically expensive. And the thing is, that's one of the biggest things that I had to quickly debunk as I started traveling, because, that's what was in my mind as well. Like, oh, this is going to be so expensive. And then even telling other people I was getting ready to travel the world, they were like, how in the hell are you going to afford this? Because I left with no job too. So
Yeah.
like, how the hell are you going to afford this? And the thing is, like, when you get out there, it's all about like taking what you have learned, how to budget, how to strategize. But it is very doable. It's very affordable. There have been people that, had less funds than me, and I didn't have a lot of funds when I was traveling, that been to way more countries than me. Like, they were on a deep sabbatical, and they were thriving. So that's the reason why I asked, because I just want to help others debunk that question. So I want to go into your into your business ownership role for a quick second. So could you please tell us more about your business? I believe you have two businesses, right?
Just one, but
Okay.
I mean, I have a bunch up here, but
Okay.
only one in my hand.
Okay, perfect. I'm like, listen, I get it. So tell us a bit more about your business, please.
Okay, so the name of my baby is Divine Consultants, and
Mhm.
basically I offer services to entrepreneurs, to small business owners, and working professionals. And I have a background, as I mentioned, in computers, so
Yes.
IT, I'll say IT. And also in my lifespan, I've also done some like administrative stuff. So I was like the wedding planner's assistant. I worked as an office manager, and then I was on the tech side as well. And so I pretty much married the two of them, because at the core of my business is about service. And so I married those two, and I offer technical services to business owners. So whether it is, they want a new website for their business, they need technical services like computer isn't working, or, just to kind of spearhead their tech department, overseeing the onboarding, offboarding processes and procedures. So that side of things. And then there is the other side, which is like, consider it like a virtual assistant or lifestyle consultancy.
Yes.
Or I'd say concierge. And so it's basically, you have a business, and you just need like day-to-day support, right? So whether it's liaison and with your clients, calendar management, email management, just a lot of different things. And even if you're a working professional and you're like, my job is overwhelming, they won't hire me an assistant, so I need to get my own assistant.
Yep.
And I work with the company where I've had like two clients, kind of role where they worked for a company and then they hired me, and we do all the NDAs and all that stuff like that. And they just kind of funnel some of the work that they can to me, and then I take that on. So whether it's needing to do their business reports, their expense reports, things like that. So I'm we kind of do two things. And then also as I continue to grow the business, I find that I'm also learning a lot about the business side. And so when I get clients that have that want to start a new business, the knowledge that I've gained over the years, I'm able to also offer that to them. So it's also like a business consultancy at the same time. So you're like, oh, I need a new website for my business, but you're just thinking website and you want to put the products up or whatever. And I'm thinking, okay, well, how do you want that? What is the experience you want your client to have? Like, what about automations when they make purchases? Like, it's just all of that, right?
Yeah, you're thinking about what they're not anticipating.
Exactly. And so there's like another level of service that I offer as well. So that's what keeps me busy while I'm on the road and not on the road. But that's my baby.
Awesome. Yeah. The reason why I think I thought it was two at first, because, for the audience out there. So I used to have a podcast with one of my childhood friends, and we used to do it on Instagram. So I want to say, was it 2021? Samiyyah did an ad, like an advertisement for us, and it was so amazing. So that's how I learned. I'm like, oh, and she's a business owner. I was like, listen here, I gotta, I knew that eventually I would have to have a conversation with you about it. So that's why I brought it up. But I believe, like, at the time when we were talking about it through, y'all, we have a lot of our conversations through like WhatsApp voice note. But, I believe at the time you said you had like a consulting agency and then like also like a PA or VA. So that's why I assumed it was two. Yeah.
Two and one.
Awesome. Okay, so I have a few more questions for you before we wrap up. Going back is going to be a little bit of entrepreneurship and a little bit of travel. So going back to travel really fast, could you please tell us like any challenges, and you don't have to go over a whole abundance, but is there a particular challenge or that you had to face while traveling?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think I'm probably going to say meeting myself. And I think I could be wrong, but I'm speaking from my experience. I feel like when you're solo traveling, there's that opportunity if you're open to it.
Yeah.
And I had that, you asked me the questions, when was that aha moment or whatever. And I had an aha moment where I was like, oh, this is what's going on within. And I need to let this crap go, right?
Yeah.
So I really felt like that was one of the most challenging moments for me, was meeting myself and realizing I had stuff I was holding on to that I needed to release.
Yeah.
And it was in that moment that like, I feel like, and this was when I was in Myanmar, and maybe that's also probably why it's a special place for me too.
Yeah.
But I was in, Indaji Lake, I believe it is. I was there, and I was in the bathroom or something, and I was in the mirror, and I just felt all of these emotions, and I looked in the mirror, and then I up until that point, I was in the season of just like holding everything in, and probably one of the reasons why I was feeling overwhelmed at the same time. And I remember Spirit saying to me, let it out. Cry, let it out. And it was the first time I had cried in probably like a year or two. Like I felt like I was a bit hard. Like nothing was funny to me.
Yeah.
Funny. I didn't want to cry or anything. And so, I'm going to have to say that was hard. That was a hard thing for me. And sorry guys, there's no tea here about like travel per se, because I'm a adaptable person. And so I felt like I've just always been like that. So I don't want to say it's just like, oh, this is, not like that. Very humbling, right? But I didn't feel like that was a challenge for me to go into a place where I didn't know anyone, or people didn't look like me, because I had already faced that in my life here in America anyway. I always felt like I was the oddball in spaces. I went to Wayne Patterson, party school, Black, but when you're in class, it was like 2 or 3 Black people. Like, and then I was the president of the Outdoors Club. So I was always surrounded by the others. And so that was not a thing for me. It wasn't a thing. And I had already gotten comfortable with just being in my own skin and being by myself. So that was nothing. So I think that was probably the hardest thing for me to meet, be faced with during my travels, was myself.
I actually I really love that you said that, because I would have never thought about that, but you're absolutely right, because I think I fully agree with everything you say. When, in my personal opinion, of course, when you're traveling alone, you can't run from yourself. Like when you're traveling with groups or even one other person, it's easy to hide behind, hide certain flaws, and your flaws, whether you want to admit it or not. But it's easy to kind of hide those flaws hide behind somebody when you see those flaws coming up, or in a group, kind of just saying, "Oh, I'm just going to play, get along or whatever." But you really have to meet yourself, because there's a lot of silent moments, and a lot of people run away from that because they don't want to sit in the silence. This is who I really am. And not saying that, it's a whole bunch of ugliness, but you have to take everything in. I think, especially with social media and the way society has been, it's everything's a highlight reel. I can only show my highlights. And that's it. I can't show the pitfalls or the valleys and the lows and all that stuff, But when you're traveling by yourself, or you're doing this by yourself, you have to meet yourself. There's no way around it. And I feel like God also allows us to be approached by certain situations to where it's I have no other choice but to confront this, or acknowledge this, or even accept this. A lot of times, we don't want to accept our flaws, and it's not necessarily a bad thing for us to accept our flaws. It's just about being self-aware. But, again, in a society where you're taught to just only show your highlight reel and only show the great parts about you, it's no, you're a whole person. You're a whole person. And, that could be challenging. And it also could be freeing too. Once you start to sit by yourself and sit in yourself and just understand, this is who I am. And you're oh, it could be a very beautiful thing as well. So I really appreciate you sharing that, because that was the furthest thing from my head.
I like that you said it too. It can be a beautiful thing. And I think it is a beautiful thing, even if it doesn't look like it in the beginning. It's you only get one chance at this life, in the body, in the name that you are in right now. And so it's why wouldn't you want to know everything about that vessel that you're occupying? You know what I mean? Know yourself. Because it's only you. You came in here, you gotta leave one day, and our time learning everybody else. So we might as well take our time learning ourselves, So being more intentional with that.
I fully agree. Okay, I have a few more questions for you. So for anybody that's also interested in traveling the world, especially by themselves, what piece of advice would you offer them?
I'm honestly going to say, there's probably a few things. I would say pile up or stock up or save. Save as much cash as you can, right? I think, yes, it's nice where you can go and travel and find different gigs where you can barter. Okay, I'll work in the cafe for a couple days, but I can live, have board here free or whatever. That's great. But you also want to be able to call your own shots, right? And you you can budget. You don't have to stay in fancy hotels or whatever, but definitely, I want to say save as much cash as you possibly can. I won't say start planning early, because that's not even the advice I gave myself. I literally went, and I still do this, and my partner will say, stop doing it. Get to the airport and book a hotel. I'm not with that, spending 3 weeks trying to book something. Just buy the flight, get there. There's abundance of hotels, guest houses, hostels. You will find something. That is far, from a part of the planning, right? So don't even occupy that. the occupy your time, use your time doing that. The second thing I would say, so first is save money. The second thing I would say is put an emergency action plan into place. So when I left, because I was going by myself, I had like my mother, I had my older sister, I had a dear friend of mine who I went to school with, Orain. He was in the chat, and he also loved to travel. So it was him and then another friend, and they both traveled, so they knew how to navigate the international waters. And then my mom and my sister were in that chat, and so the rules were, if you don't hear from me like after 2 days, whether on this WhatsApp group or in the on social media, if I haven't posted, then something's wrong, and I need you guys to kind of like trace back to the last post that I did. And I was pretty consistent about posting movements, and so just having somebody put that plan into action if anything happens, right? Like we don't know, anything can happen, but have people that you can easily reach out to in the event that something happens. That's two. And I think three, I'm going to have to say, really release the mindset that you have when you're here in America. And I think and even when traveling, we meet Americans and we can still see, oh, okay, you're not my tribe yet. Like,
you're not there yet. You're not there yet.
Yeah. Started. Not to say, oh, you're not a part of it, you can't come sit at the table. Not saying that, but sometimes you just can't entertain certain things anymore, or just the way of thinking or how you show up. It's almost like, and now we're in another country, we're in a foreign land, we're in their land, and so now we need to figure out how we do this thing together. And I think we need to. I also think too, when we bring America with us, we don't, we can't completely leave it out, because some of those things are, some of the traits
embedded in us. We
need it sometimes, right? But being open enough to learn from another culture, to hear what the assignment is for you in that country, because every country has a different assignment. And I feel like God places people in our journey, and we just have to be ready for them, and we can't kind of have all the noise and do what we're supposed to do when we meet that individual. And so I think those are really, simple. Stack your money, have your
profound advice, yes.
And leave the old mentality back at home, and be open to a new way of thinking, and have your world expanded.
Absolutely, and I agree with every single thing that you said.
I want to hear what yours are, but go ahead.
Well, I was going to piggyback off of what you said, but the biggest thing is, for me, give yourself grace too, because you're going to grow so much. You're going to grow so much. And like, kind of like what we were just talking about sitting in yourself and like really learning yourself. I feel like if you travel by yourself, you have no other choice but to learn yourself. Like, you cannot run away from it, But the thing is, giving yourself grace. Like, I'm one of those people, like, I will beat myself up off of about a past version of myself. And something that I had to learn when I was traveling abroad was I just had to let that go. Like, I might have been approached with a situation that I'd never been approached with before, or like came across something that I never had to deal with before. And I might have reacted in the way how Tamara would have reacted in America. And yes, that might work with Tamara in America, but Tamara's not in America right now. So I hate speaking about myself in third person, but I had to bring a point up. But I say that to say, like, I had to learn how to give myself so much grace, because one thing that I realized living at home, living in America, is that I always ran off of perfectionism. Like, I couldn't afford to make a mistake, or if I made mistakes, I couldn't afford to show others that I made mistakes. So when I would make mistakes or reacted not the best way, or handle something probably in not the best way, I would think about it and would start to beat myself up about it. But I'm like, you're literally growing. Like, you're growing. So give yourself, you didn't know before, but now you know. So like, give yourself grace. Now, if you continuing to do the foolishness afterward, then okay, girl, you need to figure that out. But give yourself grace. Piggybacking off of what you said, of course, save money. Also, too, again, with like really learning yourself and knowing yourself, be honest with who you are. And what I mean by that is like, are you someone that can budget money, like know how to deal with money? Or are you someone that is very impulsive and you don't know how to work with money? And because that will come out, that will be one of your quickest lessons. I personally feel like traveling abroad by yourself very quickly. A big thing was like having that emergency contact or that exit plan. That's very important. One thing that I realized, and I actually came across people that I was friends with. Unfortunately, we don't know when we're going to land in an emergency situation, and hopefully we never do, but it does happen. If it's not you, it's going to be somebody close to you or near you that is going to impact you some way, somehow. And one thing that I realized is very similarly to you. Before I left, like, I had my pinpoint people that I said, hey, put them also in a group, WhatsApp group chat. And hey, like, this is my information. This my mama information. This the family member that got some money that could bail me out if I, provide some funds if I don't have enough, whatever. And, this is where you could find this. This is where you could find that, blah, 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 blah. If I lose my passport, here's my passport. People, of course, that you trust. Here's my passport information. But also kind of the same thing. Like, if I'm not checking in after a certain amount of time, then, go into the emergency action plan. Because what ended up happening for me, like, it didn't happen to me, but it happened around me, is I had a close friend while I was in Vietnam that got in a terrible motorbike accident. And the thing is like, we hung out every day. And this happens a lot when you're traveling solo or when you're just traveling, period. You'll meet people, and especially if you're living there, you'll converse with them all the time, hang out with them all the time, but heaven forbid something happens. And then they're like, well, who's their who's their emergency contact? And you're like, I don't know. Like, yes, I speak to this person yet every day. Yes, I know where they live in this country. Yes, I know their telephone number in this country. But I don't, I know where they're from, but I don't know who their parents are, who their friends are, who their people are. And that taught me something. Like, although I kind of proactively did it, that's something that a lot of people overlook or think is not a big deal until something happens. Because I had to run around like a chicken with my head chopped off, trying to find an emergency contact for my friend, and that happens. Like, there will be people that will get seriously injured. Unfortunately, there will be people that pass away. And it's like, does anybody know their contacts at home? And everyone's like, yeah, so that's something to definitely keep in mind. Mm-hmm. And then I forgot what you said on the last one.
And I think, just to piggyback off of what you just said too, I do think that's important, because I keep like there's like little cards in my luggage, and like spread it out just so if someone had to go through them, they would find something. But we're in such like a world of technology now where you just scan something comes up, right? So that is a good idea to actually have like some kind of QR code or something like a little necklace or something like that, where somebody can scan it, and it's like, hey, these are, if something happens to me, if you're scanning this is who you should reach out to or whatever. I think that's actually a good part B to that one.
Yeah. And then I forgot what your last point was, but I wanted to piggyback off of that too, but I just forgot.
Okay. So that was save your money, your EAP, and leave your American mentality.
Yes. And then that's the point that I brought up with the grace, giving yourself grace. Because it is, at the end of the day, we are who we are. And if you were born and raised in America, you're American. So there's things that you'll have to just unlearn. And it takes time. So just give yourself grace. But again, piggybacking off of what you're saying, be open-minded. Like, be willing to learn other people's cultures. Be willing to get to know other people. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned, and I try to still emulate it to this day, sometimes I fail at it, is one thing I had lived and also visited so many countries where people had what America would call so little, like little to nothing, and they were the happiest people on this planet. Like that, they literally had minimalism, like that's their lifestyle. Like it's just very simple. And they were like, I have my family, I have my help, I can spend time with my family. We have enough to, feed ourselves and clothe ourselves and shelter, provide shelter for ourselves. And that was good enough for them. And they were at perfect peace and they were so happy. What yet you see here is like, you got to have a big house and like, oh, it's not big enough. It got to be bigger and it got to be bigger. Oh, you got a fancy car. No, it got to be more expensive and even more fancier, blah, blah, blah. And everyone's so miserable. Well, most people are so miserable, but yet as I travel, I can't speak for you, but as I travel around the world, I met people that had little, what America would call little to nothing, and they were so happy.
Yeah, and I think that's another reason why I'm just so glad I started in Asia, honestly, like, because that was something I noticed as well, especially getting more onto, I'd probably say I'd say when I landed in Vietnam, because everything was kind of moving fast, Japan, Korea, China. Yeah. But really getting out there and being with the people, it's almost like, and going to people's houses, like, I have stories, and it's like, so just having fun, like being with each other. And it's not to say that they don't necessarily aspire to have more, of course, but they're content, and not in a way where it's like, I'm not going to work for anything. Like, I'm not going to work towards anything else or trying to pursue my goals. But it's like, I'm here. I have my family. I have my health. I get to take naps. This is something I learned in Vietnam.
Okay.
But like, it's just, life is simple. Life is simple there. And I'm trying to think, I'm like, is it just simple there? Is it simple everywhere? I feel like there's a combination of life is simple in many places outside of America. And it's even more simple when you kind of come to peace within yourself. So there's that kind of like collaboration going on there. Yeah. So
I can't speak for you, but like when I first moved to Vietnam, you know how it's like, well, what we consider like the little baby tables with the baby stools, like everything's like, and I remember when I first moved to Vietnam, I'm like, why on earth in my head, of course, like, why on earth again, that American mindset that you got to let go. Why on earth are all these grown people sitting on these baby stools and have these like really, and then don't forget half of them are chained to the ground because people are snatching them. But then the next thing I knew, like fast forward a few weeks later, I'm sitting on those baby stools and eating my pho and all that stuff and just having a good time. And it just became a way of life. And like, just a month ago, I would have looked at myself like, girl, are you crazy? But, again, about staying open-minded and being willing to immerse yourself in a new culture and just understand and be respectful and just respect it. That was something that was really big for me. And I think that ultimately, to sum all this up, your mindset, like carrying around the right mindset, and just being open, being willing, always being a student. A lot of times people just want to be a teacher, but it's like you have to be a student too, like and a lifelong student. You don't know everything and you're not going to know everything, but that's the beauty of it. Hey, if it wasn't for me being open-minded, I wouldn't have realized like, hey, I'm actually much more happy living as a minimalist versus when I have too much crap, Yeah.
Absolutely. Gotta drag around like 5 suitcases, right? Like even now, like here, I think was it during my sabbatical? Maybe not. I think when I came back, it was, I literally was like, okay, I don't need half as much. So I had a backpack for 18 months. Like, and I picked up little things along the way, like a new pair of pants, new shirt, dress, whatever. But it always remained in the backpack. And I'm like, I have all these clothes. I don't need this stuff, right? And so immediately when you come back here, you start acquiring more and more. It's almost like you get put in and you get sucked in.
And it's like, bye.
What? You really have to like watch that. Like you have to, but you're just more at peace with a little.
Yeah. I remember when I left, I had a 50-liter suitcase. because I'm like, I'm traveling the world. I'm traveling the whole world. So I had a 50-liter suitcase. I had a backpack filled to the brim. It was like, girl, you put one more thing in here, we're going to bust. And then I had like another backpack that I had filled to the brim as well. So I came with like 3 big old things. I'm just looking like a Michelin man. And literally, as I was leaving each country, and it was very hard at first. Again, like learning how to let go. It was very hard at first. Letting go. Like when I first had to leave Prague, I was just like freaking out because I'm like, I had to leave some things behind, but I'm like, do not throw this stuff out and, keep it. I'm going to tell you guys where to send it. I'm going to send you the money, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, people ended up moving and all that stuff. And then my stuff got, basically thrown out. And I was so upset about it until I realized, I'm like, Tam, like, number one, girl, you left it. Let's just start and end there. And then number two, I'm already in Vietnam and like, you're having a whole conniption in Vietnam. And girl, you don't even need this stuff.
Need the stuff.
And as the countries went on and the months went on, I'm just shedding. And it's like you said, so I had came back to America for a month just to take a break. And then I went back to South America by that point. And I literally went to REI and bought like a backpacking backpack. And I'm like, I'm just putting my stuff in there and I'm just going to rock and roll with that. And that's what I did because And even like people were like, you're not going to take your big luggage. I'm like, girl, no, that's too much stuff.
Yeah. It actually changes because that's how like I travel now with a suitcase, and I cannot move as freely as I wanted to, or as I would like. Compared to my sabbatical where you had the backpack and I could jump on a motorbike and like be done with it, or I have my own motorbike and like put it on there and be done with it. Right now it's like I have a suitcase and I'm like, well, there's nothing but you gotta call a Grab or Uber, whatever is available, car, and they take you to your next destination. Like you don't have that flexibility to move. And then also sometimes you're like, dang, I got this luggage, I gotta pack it, we gotta move again. Like it just becomes
dreaded.
Yeah, so if you can.
Yeah. And then also too, one more thing I would have to say about the big luggage. If I told y'all how many times I was on the airplane, like waiting, they're still loading your luggage up underneath the airplane. And I'm seeing these people struggling with my suitcase and they just throw it any old way. And I'm watching my suitcase just lay it any old way. And I'm like, I'm so upset on the plane where it's just like, I could have just had a backpack and just called it a day. So definitely that. So we're about to wrap this up. Do you have, before I ask you to plug in your socials and any websites you might have, do you have any parting words for our audience?
I want to ask you one question. I think probably, and it probably ties up everything you've basically said, but I guess one major takeaway from your travel experiences, what would you say that is? Something that just sticks with you, like even to this day.
It's probably not going to matter later on in life. Because like for me, I could get worked up easily over certain things. And I just have to start asking myself, like, is this even going to matter 3 months from now, 6 months from now? Is this, again, with the, like, holding myself, like, so high on the pedestal and beating myself up about things? Is like, is this even going to matter later on in life? It's just a lesson. It's just something to just know and take with me, learn from it, go on, or just enjoy the experience. So for me, enjoy the experience for what it is, whether it was good, bad, ugly. It's all a beautiful experience. Life is about the whole experience, the whole entire experience. It's not singular. It's very messy. It's not a straight line. You're going to go squiggly lines up and down. There might be times you're like, damn near, you feel like you damn near in hell. But it's all experience. And one thing that I realized is just being open to it and just understanding that it's building blocks. Like when I look back on my life, and especially during my travels, everything happened for a reason to prepare me for something else later in my life. I might not have understood it at that time, but like whenever it came to pass, like whatever situation came to pass, I'm like, oh, now I see why God allowed me to go through A, B, and C, or allowed me to have this experience, whatever. So for me, it's just taking it for what it is and, learning from it, or just saying, hey, okay, cool. And just keep pushing, because that's just what life is about.
I love that.
Yeah.
1 point.
Yes. All right. So we would love to keep in contact with you. So for anybody watching, how can we find you?
All right. On social media, I am on IG at Wanderlust Adventure. That is TheWanderess Adventure. And then my business is divine.consultants, DIVINE.consultants. I'm not very active on there, but if anyone is interested in my services, the link is in the bio and they can reach out to me that way.
Awesome. Well, first and foremost, sis, thank you so much again for joining me. This is my very first guest podcast by myself, so I wanted it to be you. So I'm so honored that you joined me on the call, and love you so much. Are you back in Asia, or are you still here?
Still here.
Okay.
Still in Jersey. So about maybe 3 more weeks. So second week of July, we're out of here.
Okay. Awesome. So yes. We will be. We'll still be in contact. Probably leaving our WhatsApp voice note.
Yep. Thank you, Summer, for having me. This was fun, and I'm wishing you all the best on your new journey. And
thank you.
I'll speak to you soon.
All right, thank you. And then everyone, I'm going to plug in Sammiyah's social media as well as a website in the description box below. And if you guys have any questions, just feel free to reach out to her. And then don't forget, you could also follow me at Lover of Shades on all platforms: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I'm the most active on Instagram though. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.